What do you want women in general, and Black women specifically, watching this to understand about their power and their worth?
We've always led. And so we should not allow others to define us or our ability to lead. We have to be bold in every single space that we're in and know that in order for you to even get into that space, you had to work 10 times as hard. And therefore, you earned your seat. Very few of us are Nepo babies that were given something. And so don't doubt yourself because of what others say. Anything that they say is really out of fear for you because they literally know your strength. So walk in it, own it.
Welcome to At Our Table. Today's conversation is with Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett. And this isn't just another political interview. Jasmine Crockett is a truth teller in a time that punishes honesty. She's bold in a moment that asks Black women to be quiet. And she's unafraid to confront power, even when doing so comes at a personal cost. Before Congress, before cable news, before the viral clips, she was a public defender and civil rights attorney, standing beside people when the system had already decided they didn't matter. And now she's running for the United States Senate. This conversation is about courage, criticism, belonging, and the audacity to believe that your voice still matters, even when others say it doesn't. Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, we are so glad to have you here at our table.
Yes, I'm so excited to be here, and I need to put you on the payroll.
Well, listen, before we get into the moment that you are in now, I do want people to understand who you were before Washington, D.C., because a lot of people don't know your background. You were a public defender and a civil rights lawyer. So tell us, who was that Jasmine Crockett? And then what was the transition from being in the courtroom to saying, okay, I want to run for office?
Yeah, so same old Jasmine, different day.
Yes.
It was interesting because as you talk about the campaign trail, I was in the Rio Grande Valley this weekend, and I was speaking to a group of people in Brownsville, and I've been all around this weekend, and I'm talking, and I get to the very end, and there's a woman on the first row, and I'm looking at her, and I realize it's one of my classmates from law school.
Wow.
And so I was like, Liz, like in the middle of like all of my like words. And she was like, and she had been sitting there the whole time.
Yeah.
But I was just like in a zone and I wasn't even thinking about that. And she goes, I want y'all to know that she's always been like this. And so it was so reassuring for people that live in this time in which they don't know if they can trust the words that are coming out of a politician's mouth, to have someone who knew me way before the politics. So to be clear, I've always been the same person. I decided that I wanted to elevate my fight, and that is why I ended up getting into politics. I decided to run for the state house because I did not like the laws as they were written, as someone who was consistently practicing in courtrooms. And frankly, my focus a lot of times was on criminal justice with my legislation, and a combination of civil rights, trying to minimize those contacts with law enforcement so that hopefully something would not go wrong. But frankly, it was really heavy on kids.
Yeah.
And my experiences with young people and how their dreams were snuffed out so quickly. So I wanted to write laws that made sense based on my actual experiences. I never planned to do anything other than the state house, but I was called up, literally and figuratively.
By a great congresswoman.
Yes.
Eddie Bernice Johnson.
Yeah, by my predecessor.
She was amazing. I got an opportunity to work with her when I was in the House Dem leadership with Congressman Clyburn.
Yeah.
And so you had big shoes to fill.
Yes.
And I think she would be very proud of the way that you have filled her shoes.
I pray she is.
Yeah.
I really do. And that was actually the phrase. That was always the refrain, big shoes to fill. So, but back to just kind of what it was to be a public defender.
Yeah.
I was representing people that did not believe in the system for a lot of reasons. Most people don't think of public defenders and think that's what I want,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
They think of less than good representation. They think people that are overworked and underpaid, which I will agree with that part. But they don't believe that they've got a shot with a public defender. And I became that public defender that literally people would come to jail and they'd be like, okay, can we get Jasmine?
Yeah, we need her.
Yeah, exactly. And so, you know, I began to really, really study how bad it was once I was in it, right? I feel like that's what it is to kind of be in Congress too, or just be in a legislative body. Like, you're on the outside looking in and you're like, whew, we got some things we need to change. And then you get inside and you're like, whoa, Lord, it's more broken than I thought, you know? But every time I've got to kind of like hit a wall, I'm like, let me elevate my activism, let me elevate my fight for the people. And that's what it is to run for U.S. Senate.
Was there a case when you were in the courtroom, was there a case or a moment when you realized that the system wasn't just broken, but that it was comfortable being broken?
Yes. Well, okay. So it was really when I was in the state legislature that I realized I was just completely green.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, this is a feature of the system. This is not a flaw in the system. Like it became very apparent. But I will tell you that there are cases that stick with me. One that I talk about all the time is a 17-year-old who was charged with stealing candy out of the concession stand at his high school. I did not know that Texas was only one of 5 states that at the age of 17, you are automatically considered an adult, but only for criminal justice purposes. And so what that meant was that this was considered a felony of burglary of a building. And that's not how, yes, that's the face. And that's not how most people would think of like burglary. Like when you see that on somebody's rap sheet, you're like, ooh, you broke into somebody's thing. You're not thinking like a kid stealing candy. You're thinking there's no real value there. Like you're thinking—
How many kids I know sneaked into the teacher's lounge, knocked on the snack machine in order? Wow.
So it was a felony, and I did not have him when he initially caught the charge, but I ended up getting him on a probation revocation. And this was because he was a high school kid whose mom was a single mom who was doing everything that she could to make sure she could put a roof over their head. And so ultimately, he was not making it to his appointments with his probation officer. He hadn't picked up any new offenses or anything. And the judge decided to revoke his probation and give him a maximum sentence. And I was just like, this ain't right.
Yeah.
And I was like, I can't do enough fighting one case at a time. I have to rewrite the laws.
Yeah.
And so, you know, it took me a little while to kind of get there. I initially ran for DA. And so I ran for DA, won the early vote, lost on election day, which was wild. Didn't know what I was doing. I was 28 years old at the time. Yeah. And in East Texas. And so that's the only race that I lost, and that's the last one that I plan to lose. So we gonna win this U.S. Senate seat, honey. But I learned so much in that experience, and I've got, you know, stories of inmates that have passed away. I've got the stories of having to talk to moms about the fact that, yes, law enforcement killed your child, and yes, it was terrible, but no, there's no great way for us to make it through the courts to make sure that you get some sort of money as it relates to being able to kind of go on a little bit. So
you took that knowledge to the State House, then from the State House to Congress, and now you are running for the United States Senate in the great state, the Lone Star State of Texas, your home state. Why now?
You know what? The refrain continues to be the fierce urgency of now. Yeah. I have real concerns. I tell people all the time that I probably need to just go ahead and buy my tin hat. Because I feel like I'm full of conspiracy theories, or at least one point in my life, if people would have said some of the things that I'm thinking, I would have said that they were a little off. I don't know how long our democracy has. That's number one. I don't know.
And that's no hyperbole.
It is not.
That is.
It is not. It is not. I could have gone back to the House. I would have found my way back to the House. You can run anywhere in the state. I would have found a spot that fit. I would have gone back to the House. The pay is the same. This has nothing to do with any of that.
Yeah.
This has everything to do with being able to change the trajectory of our entire country by getting this specific seat. I also would not be running if we had a Democratic senator because I never tried to get certain titles. This is about the work that kind of comes with it. So for me, I do have concerns about whether or not we're going to have elections. I think it was just today that the president was basically lamenting that he had not used the National Guard to go and grab voting machines in 2020 so that he could audit them. He is consistently dropping bombs and, as far as I'm concerned, engaging in wars that are illegal and unconstitutional. Obviously, there's been no consent whatsoever of the Congress as is required. So, I could sit back and be like, oh, I'm going to wait for the perfect opportunity or the perfect time. There is no perfect time. And I can't say in good conscience that I am serving on the federal level because I want to make change, knowing that numerically, if there's anyone that has an opportunity of winning this seat in Texas on our side, it's me. I remember talking to a sorority sister about what the numbers revealed and my thoughts. And she said, I don't want to make this more difficult on you, but I feel like you have a moral obligation. She's like, you never got into politics to be a politician. You got into politics because you actually wanted to help. And we need to change the math in the Senate. Whoever ends up going to the House in whatever seat I would have run in, it's going to be another Democrat that ends up in that seat. It doesn't change the math on the House side. And so many people said, well, we can't lose your voice. I'm like, well, don't lose my voice. But I can't be a voice that basically is just that. And that's kind of how I feel as people sit back and they say, how can he do this? Can he do this? This and that. Like, I need to be in a position where I have more power and the Senate itself has more power because now we have a Democrat out of Texas. That changes the map and the landscape, and it allows us to be able to rein things in. When you're talking about the fact that this man was impeached on the House side, but then he didn't get convicted in the Senate, when we're looking at these incompetent and very dangerous cabinet members, again, they can go and impeach him in the House, but what's going to happen in the Senate? When we're talking about the fact that they did try to steal 5 seats out of Texas, I'm going to do everything that I can to counter that as well. But with them trying to steal the 5 seats, listen, when I was in the State House, we broke quorum. We came to D.C. Speaker Pelosi, at that time, she passed the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act. She passed the Freedom to Vote Act. But you know what happened in the Senate? Nothing.
Got filibustered.
Yeah. So we've got to change the math.
So, and I want to talk about math because the average American probably doesn't realize this about your home state of Texas, that minorities make up 61%, 60 plus percent of the population. But when looking at the actual who votes, minorities make up 40%.
Yeah. It's basically
of the
transposed.
electorate. So you have constantly said in this that, one, your motivation, because I've seen this online, and I want to talk a little bit about some of the online stuff, all of these online experts, because they read Politico or something, right? So now they're they're more of an expert about Texas than you are. But,
and at winning elections, and they've won none. Some of these.
No,
but
and some have never been on a campaign.
Correct.
Right? So we'll talk about them in a second. But from day one, you have said that, one, you're in this race because you want to make Texas a better place for the people that live there.
Yeah.
So that you've been centered your campaign on who those folks are.
Yeah.
And the second thing that you've said is that you have looked at these numbers and you have done the math. Explain to us what that means, that you have done the math, you've crunched numbers, and why you believe that you, unlike anybody, they've been white men, they've been Latino men, they've been black men, they're, white women who've all run for U.S. Senate in the last, 30, 40 years from Texas have not been successful. But you have looked at some numbers that show that you have a path. Can you talk to our folks about what that path looks like?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things. So in the state of Texas, while we have 30 million people that live in the state, we have approximately a little bit less than 19 million that are registered voters. But when we look at voter turnout, we are only looking at a little bit more than 50% of the voters actually show up and vote. And so that's how those numbers can be transposed that way, because we are not voting basically, everybody's not voting. Now, there's a number of reasons for that. You've got voter suppression, and you also have voter intimidation, and you also have voter apathy. There are only so many of those things that I or any other candidate can control. For me, it's a matter of, do I want to go and sound like I'm a Republican and just say the Republican things and hope that Republicans cross over?
And that's what we have seen in southern states for decades, as long as I've been involved in politics. And they lose.
They lose. Or you can say, hey, there's a whole bunch of people that just aren't voting.
Yeah.
Let's look at who those people are. So again, as you talk about who's been voting, you look at who's not voting. It's Black and brown people for the most part. All right, so do we have more Black people? Yes, we do, because we have more African Americans than any other state. Do we have more brown people? Yes, we do. Okay, well, let's look at the polling. My internal polling, external polling. Let's see what it says about how I perform with Black and Latino, because I do believe that the win, that doesn't mean that I'm leaving anybody out of this equation, right? But obviously, you have to decide where you're going to go and who it is you're going to go after. And so for me, it is Black and Latino to make sure that we increase their participation. And so when we look at Beto's numbers, which are the best numbers to look at, because it is a similar environment, except it's worse. Trump was president. It was the midterm year. And Trump is president. It's the midterm year. Exit polls reveal that approximately 65% of Latinos voted for Beto. African Americans, they were at 89 or 90%. So he came close as a progressive in Texas by being able to increase those numbers. So recently it was said Beto couldn't do it. So how can Jasmine do it? Glad you asked. Because you really didn't ask. You just said what I couldn't do. But nevertheless, glad you asked. When it comes down to it, when Beto got into the race, no one knew who he was.
Yeah, so he had spent a lot of money on name ID.
He had to spend a lot of money on name ID.
I know what that means.
And it is a short runway.
Yes.
A lot of people look at this like, oh, we got a lot of time. No, you don't. No, you don't. Not in a state that is as vast as Texas is and has as many people as it has and has some of the most expensive media markets in the state. So, like, no, you really don't, right? So Beto worked. Like, he tried to do old school, new school, which is most likely what we're going to do too, in different ways, right? But like, he went to every single one of the 254 counties in the state of Texas. Now, because I have a day job, that's not going to be a thing. Like, I won't be to all 254, but we will be going around the state. But Beto had to spend a lot of money to get his name ID up. And frankly, my very good friend who was already in this race, last cycle, Colin Allred, had to do the same thing. In fact, then if we go back a little bit more, MJ Hagar, she also had to do the same thing.
I had to do the same thing when I ran in South Carolina. I had 10% name ID and had to get it up to 90% name ID.
So there we go. So, but that's the first step when I look at races.
Yep.
The first step is I learned your name.
Yes.
The second step is I know who you are, or at least I feel like I know who you are. So that's your branding.
Yep.
The third step is I know who you are and I really like you.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
And then fourth is like, yo, we're coming home. Home base is that's my person. I got to go vote.
Yep.
Right? So my argument is that, yes, it's still $100 million raise, but you get to use the money so much more efficiently because it's not going to take us all that time. In fact, my name ID is just as high, if not now starting to get higher than our current senator. We've never entered a race in Texas with a Democratic candidate that had that high name ID. Then there were those that argued, well, yeah, she's got high name ID, but she's really disliked. All right, so new polling came out. That's not my polling. And it was done in the very traditional way that polls are done instead of some of the bootleg stuff we've seen kind of thrown out there. And this polling said that my net positive, I had a net positive when it came.
+2.
I was +2,
Yeah.
which some people would be like, well, that don't sound high. It is. It is. Especially if your argument is that I am so disliked. In fact, it was higher than every single elected Republican in our state currently. And this wasn't just Democrats, this was a mix of everybody, right? In addition to that, it wasn't just that I was +2, because if no one knows you, it's easier to kind of be in the positive. But my name ID was still really high amongst this group. So that means that I'm liked when people know me. That's a good start.
Yeah.
That's a great start. And that people actually know me. So we've been on the road. When we show up, it's not people just kind of showing up like, let me see who this person is. It is, Jasmine's going to be here. This is great. And like, they can say things that I've said. They can, like, they're engaged and they're excited. And that's what we're going to need. We're going to need enthusiasm.
Enthusiasm is key.
And honestly, we don't need to run the same races that we've always run. Not if we want a different result. And so I'm a different candidate. I will run in a different way. I am running in a different way. And we're going to get it done.
Well, what is interesting for me is I'm watching this race, from afar, and, I've been close to you. I'm close to Colin and a lot of friends in Texas, and I'm listening to them, and they're talking about the energy on the ground and the enthusiasm that you particularly have and have had for a long time. But then we got a lot of folks from afar that don't live in Texas that feel compelled to talk about the Senate primary in Texas, even though they don't know anything. They don't even know some of the people who are running, right? But they want to comment. Just recently, there's a viral podcast clip from Bowen Yang, a comedian, and Matt Rogers, a podcaster, and they question your prospects and even discourage people from contributing to you. And you've heard the phrase, she can't win in Texas, that you're already defined. And now we're hearing it from folks who have these major platforms. Even we heard from Stephen A. Smith, who had critiques about you. Tell me, what do you think when you hear those things? And the piggyback to that is, because I keep thinking about, electability. I keep thinking about Black women in particular, that we say in the party that Black women are the backbone of the Democratic Party because they're the party's most loyal constituency, but they're really the ones that we invest in when they step forward to lead. Give me a sense and give our audience a sense of what you think when you hear this and how you react to hearing these type of things.
Yeah, people are afraid. And it's not afraid of me losing. They are afraid of me winning. Actually, that's what I hear. What disappoints me is when I hear things from the left. I expect to hear certain things from the right, right? So that's fine. But I will also tell you that, the internet is not a real place.
Yes.
And, you should oftentimes ask yourself, is somebody paying for this? If so, who do we think may be paying for it? That kind of stuff. But I will say that I've won every single race that I've ever won because of the people. It's going to be the same thing with money. If I was put into a situation where I was only relying on big donors, I probably would be in a bad way because typically there are candidates that are only relying on big donors. And if the donors feel like, no, then you're dead in the water. I'm thankful because it's been real people that have invested in me. Our average donation is $20. I am the 5th highest fundraising member of the United States Congress, Democrat or Republican. On the House side, I am the 5th highest fundraising member. And so thus far, I've always defied the odds. I'm the girl that they're like, no. And then all of a sudden, the door's kicked open to a big yes, right? And honestly, we're already preparing for the rhetoric once we're done, right? I win, they'll say, oh, well, yeah, she won on a fluke. She won because of, a wave. It was because, it won't be because I actually got out and worked and, am now running on maybe a total of 8 to 10 hours of sleep over the last weekend. It won't be because I worked. It won't be because me and my team were focused on Texans. It'll be because of some random person who wasn't even on the team who will try to take credit. But that's just what they do. We're already prepared. But at the end of the day, so long as we get this done, which I plan to do, I'm good. But I know that they're not ever going to talk about you if you're not relevant.
2 quick questions, and I know you have to leave because you got to go vote.
Yes.
What do you want women in general, and Black women specifically, watching this to understand about their power and their worth?
We've always led. And so we should not allow others to define us or our ability to lead. We have to be bold in every single space that we're in and know that in order for you to even get into that space, you had to work 10 times as hard. And therefore, you earned your seat. Very few of us are Nepo babies that were given something. And so don't doubt yourself because of what others say. Anything that they say is really out of fear for you because they literally know your strength. So walk in it, own it. You know, there were a lot of people that had a lot of things to say about my launch video. I was walking in my strength in that moment, as well as signaling that I know what is going to come. You know, you talk about women and numbers. As we prepare for this primary in Texas, they anticipate that about 57% of the primary will be women. I personally believe with as many women running statewide as we have right now, that actually it may go up. We've got a female Latina that is running for governor.
Yeah.
We've got a Caucasian woman. We all serve together in the House that is running for lieutenant governor.
Now, wouldn't that be amazing?
To have 3 of us as the top 3 on the ballot. And so, you know, I believe that we're going to turn out, but like women are the ones that are receiving the brunt of the harm from this administration. And I just think that women are going to show up and do their thing.
Time for women to lead. Yeah. Last question. We close every show with the Sit Your Ass Down Award.
Okay.
So who or what needs to take several seats right now?
I'm going to have to do, just because it's a Sit Your Ass Down Award, that sounds like sass to me. I know I left the Y out. It seems like Stephen A. Smith. It just seems like it lines up. Just seems like it lines up, right? It seems like, and honestly, you know, there's the parts about me, but, you know, he's constantly attacking Black women. Like, I'm trying to figure out what Black woman hurt you, honey. Somebody hurt you bad. And then, but even beyond that, because we can deal with our things, it was him and this Minnesota thing. And so he literally was like, I'm going to tell y'all the law. You got a law degree now?
When did you get a law degree?
I'm just trying to figure this out. Like, the constant caping for the con in chief, doing a straight disservice to everyone that listens to him. So it will go to Stephen A. Smith.
Stephen A. Smith?
Yeah.
Brother, I'm sorry, but you are this week's recipient of the Sit Your Ass Down Award. Jasmine, I am so proud of you, and I'm so grateful for your leadership. I'm glad you stepped up. I know how hard, as somebody who has run for the U.S. Senate and had people say that you can't do it and you can't do this and that. And it's hard. It is hard. It's a big sacrifice. But I am so proud of you, and I'm so grateful for your leadership, what you've been doing since day one, stepping into this city, which is representing the people back home in Texas. So thank you. And I can't wait to see you put your hand on that Bible and lift the other hand as you take the oath of office and become
JD.
Yes.
I'm coming, JD.
Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett from the great state of Texas. Thank you so much for being at our table.
Thank you so much, Jamie.
If you enjoyed today's show, please be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Follow us on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, or anywhere you find your podcasts. To be the first to know who will be at our table next, be sure to subscribe to our Substack on jamieharrison.substack.com. At Our Table with Jamie Harrison is a production of Vision Blue Media. Our founding executive producers are Jason Hyder and Jamie Harrison. Our producer is Kyle Kelly. Our content consultants are Ernie Grigg and Clay Middleton. Our digital communications are led by Lauren Brown. Inez Smolansky provides production legal. Title sequence by Tom Hunt. Our theme song, Blonde Gone, is written by Dewey and published by Alibi Music Library. This episode was recorded at the DNC studios in Washington, D.C. and engineered by Johnny Wood. Jake Wofford, and Scott Brown. Very special thanks to Congresswoman Crockett and her team. I'm Jamie Harrison, and I look forward to another conversation at our table.